The judge in the Kyle Rittenhouse case has dismissed a juror who joked about the fatal shooting of Jacob Blake. Now, the fatal shooting of Jacob Blake is what sparked the unrest in Kenosha, Wisconsin, where Kyle Rittenhouse showed up with a weapon and ended up shooting 3 individuals, killing 2 and wounding the 3rd. Now, that is what he's on trial for, in addition to obtaining a weapon that he had no right to obtain because he was underage. He was 17 at the time, and Wisconsin state law indicates that anyone of that age, under the age of 18, is not legally able to purchase and obtain a gun. Now, the judge in the case, Bruce Schroeder, talked with prosecutors and defense attorneys without the jury present to discuss the matter involving Juror 7's purported joke. Why did it take 7 shots? This was the joke allegedly. Why did it take 7 shots to shoot Jacob Blake? The juror allegedly said, according to Schroeder's retelling. Now, the lead prosecutor, Thomas Binger, then jumped in and said, "It's my understanding that the rest of the joke was because they ran out of bullets." Okay. So before the juror was dismissed, the defense attorneys pleaded with the judge to at least question the juror, right? Just have a conversation with him and then make your decision. And the judge did that. And so the judge asked, "Are you comfortable repeating what the joke is, or do you want to leave it alone?" And apparently the juror did not want to retell the joke. Juror 7 apparently answered he did not want to repeat the joke when called to answer for it. And then that, of course, led to the juror's dismissal. But the juror wasn't really happy about that, okay? Before I get to his reaction, the judge said this to the juror who was later dismissed. "It is clear the appearance of bias is present, and it would seriously undermine the outcome of the case. That in itself would be sufficient cause for discharge." So he dismisses this juror, but then the juror gets super salty about it and essentially says, he was like very hush hush. And then once he's dismissed, he's like, "I don't think my joke has anything to do with Kyle Rittenhouse." He didn't want to be dismissed, which
it has everything to do with Kyle Rittenhouse. Jacob Blake got shot, and then there was a protest that Kyle Rittenhouse showed up at with a weapon. And if you thought it was no big deal that Jacob Blake got shot, you would be very sympathetic, potentially, to Kyle Rittenhouse. Now, I just explained in a different story that I think the way we pick jurors is a little bit unreasonable. If you've ever heard of the story, they eliminate you, right? So, but given that standard, not only did he hear about the story, but he's joking around about how it's no big deal that Jacob Blake got shot. Well, that in our system, that is as biased as it gets. Of course you're gonna get dismissed. You'd almost say that if you were trying to get dismissed from the jury.
And then something else happened that this is where things get bizarre. I actually think that the judge made the right decision here. I'm happy he made that decision. We've been very critical of the judge in other contexts, so let's just leave it at that. But then something else happened that I thought was incredibly weird. I think the judge realizes that there's a lot of national attention on this case, and so he went on this long spiel about hearsay laws and decided to cite the Bible when explaining it. So let's watch that.
Occurring on a discussion that you or I might have, if it didn't require the strict rules that we have in the courts, perfectly, ordinary conversation. But when it gets into court, and this is actually referred to in the Bible, St. Paul, when he was put on trial, I think it's Caesarea. Well, it was over in Palestine, in Israel. He was accused of some activity, and he was a Roman citizen, which was not common, but he happened to have been a Roman citizen, and so he had rights that we share now as Americans. And when they tried to put him on trial with evidence which was being repeated by somebody who wasn't there and under oath, he said, "Where are the witnesses against me? I am a Roman and I have a right to confront my accusers."
The trial of St. Paul did not happen in Palestine or Israel. Neither one existed at the time. It was Judea. That's where it happened. But no, who cares? Well,
that's the least relevant. It's the general area. But he's trying to be Judge Judy because he knows everybody's watching, and he's responding to a media critique there. but just do your job, do the court. You don't have to do a long story about St. Paul. And you're not going to get the job. That was the worst audition for Judge Judy I've ever seen.
He's very sensitive about the national media coverage of his handling of the trial. So earlier we shared a story about how he is not allowing the prosecutor to refer to the individuals who were shot by Rittenhouse as victims. However, he does allow the defense to refer to the people who had been shot, 2 of whom have been killed, as looters or rioters to garner favor with the jury. He made that very clear. So he got a lot of negative coverage for that, and he's a little hurt by it, right? So he says this: there are people in the media on reputable sites that are saying things that are totally bizarre. I don't think that what they're saying is bizarre. It seems like what he decided there is very much slanted in favor of the defense. The judge also criticized media accounts that referenced that he had been reversed in a murder trial that resulted in a life sentence. Schroeder said he was reversed in the 2008 case, followed the appellate court's instruction on the retrial, and then was vindicated when he was reversed again. I was right, he said.
Because he was double reversed. I'm not sure that proves you were right, but I get it. He's probably never had media attention like this, and if you've never been exposed to massive media attention, it is unnerving, right? But he's got to bring it down. He's explaining what hearsay is. Everybody knows what hearsay is. You don't need to get to a weird biblical statement to know hearsay is like one of the most fundamental things in law. We know why you can't admit hearsay. Move on, move on. So look, here, as I thought in the beginning, he's either a massive right winger or a massive left winger. Why could he be a massive left winger? Because he wants to give the defense every advantage by saying you're not even allowed to call the victims victims. And now, but now it seems fairly clear that it's not fairly clear, but it looks like he's more inclined in the right wing direction. That's my guess. That's my speculation, to be fair. But the bottom line is, these judges have discretion in how they apply the rules, right? And so it is true that you don't want to bias the jury against the defendant. That's good. Even in a case it's like Kyle Rittenhouse, you don't make exceptions based on who the defendant is. You don't say, I don't like that guy, so we're going to change the legal rules. No, of course you keep out hearsay, and you don't want the jury to be biased against them. But you don't have to apply it in a way where you say you can't call the victims victims, but they are victims, they're dead, right? And you can call them arsonists, looters, and rioters. Now you're biasing the jury in the opposite direction. So no matter what his political affiliation is and what my speculation about it is, that is a very bad ruling, and it gives Kyle Rittenhouse a massive advantage in this case. So on the other hand, he dismissed that juror, but that was such a layup. I mean, if he didn't dismiss that juror, that would be outrageous, right? And so he's got to try to be fair. I don't know if he has it in him. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.